Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. It is Tony Lynch. I am the host of this podcast, and I am here to bring you guys another amazing episode with another amazing person. You guys know how we do it. So before we get started, do me a favor. If you have not already, head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification. And so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. You guys know that we are bringing some amazing people to you. And they are people that you guys can actually reach out to and get the support and the help that you need. My guest today, she is amazing. She is coming, it is 10 o'clock there, 6 o'clock here. So you guys already know we are across the world. We are international, bringing all the amazing people to you guys, first and foremost. Now, before I bring her up, I would like to say that this is for entertainment purposes only. And if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to get to them as we go along. And without further ado, you guys, please help me welcome my next guest, the amazing Pat Armitstead. Pat, how you doing?
Hello, Tony. Wonderful to be here. It's been a rocky path, but we're here.
Yes. But you've been doing a lot of, it's not having, it really hasn't been rocky, right? You've been moving, you've been making some moves and everything like that. And now you're in your new place. So for me, it was like, hey, you know what? We can wait.
Thank you. And I love that saying, when you shift, everything shifts. So that can be literal or it can be figurative.
Very true.
Yes.
Very, very true. So, first and foremost, before we get started, tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Thank you. My name is Pat Armitstead, as you said. I live in Australia, in Brisbane, in Queensland. I began my career as a registered nurse and nursed for 20 years. When I left nursing, nurses do funny things when they leave nursing. So I created my own video production studio, creating commercials and filming for the news, 2020 and 60 Minutes. And then at the turn of the century, which we'll talk a little bit about during the program, a series of losses led me to create myself as the world's first joyologist. And since that time, I've been helping people move through grief and loss from many sources, and with my main intention of ultimately finding some joy.
See, that is truly amazing. See, you guys, I've been on Pat's podcast, and she does an amazing job. So you guys need to go check her out. I think I do believe I put her information down there, but if not, we'll be sure towards the end to make sure that you guys know where to find her, okay? And of course, you guys already know the grief industry is starting to grow. There's people out there that are doing amazing work. We want to make sure that you guys are informed and make sure that you guys know where to find their support at. And Pat is one of many amazing people out there that are doing amazing work. Now, Pat, before we dive into your story, I would like to ask a question. How did you find yourself in this position to be able to help others navigate themselves through the grief world?
Well, I think it began in my nursing career, and I have a little story I'd like to share there. The very first man I ever bed bathed was a man by the name of Bob Hall. A construction crane had fallen on him, flattened him. He had 35 broken bones. And they pretty much stood around him in casualty and shook their heads and said, he's not going to make it. However, 4 hours later, he was still alive. They risked taking him to theatre, and as they were trolling him back to the recovery ward, the doctors were saying, poor beggar, he probably will be a vegetable. So Bob woke up in recovery and revealed indeed he wasn't electrical. And the conversation changed and they said, well, he'll never walk again. What I'd like viewers to know is Bob Hall was in hospital for the whole 3 years of my general nurse training. He went home for the odd weekend, but he had many, many surgeries and it was a long voyage back to a modicum of health. Bob came to my graduation ceremony on 2 sticks and stood up the back of the room until the ceremony proper was over. And then he put his hand up and he said, I've actually got something I'd like to say. And he came down the front. He had in front of him a scroll. And he peeled open this scroll, which was about 3 feet long. And he read off all the tricks and pranks and terrible things I did to him while he was in hospital. And then he turned to me and he said, you don't know what you did. So I was 21 then, on that night, and it was really not until the year 2000 that I really got the full extent of what he meant when he said that. I understood to some level, but it really impacted me then after that series of losses at the turn of the century.
Yeah.
We don't know what we do.
Isn't that the truth? Like we look back and we reminisce on the people that we impacted, right? Not knowing that we've impacted them. And I'm always a firm believer. Leave people better than what you find them.
Yes.
Right? Enjoy the moments that you have with them because you never know when that may be the last moment. I even apply that to my own life, right? I often tell people, I have people right now, if I say, tomorrow's not promised to me, I'm not going to be here forever. They often say, Tony, this is sad. I don't want to think about this. But then I understand where they're coming from, but I often come from a place where I've been doing this work for about 6 years. I understand the beauty in grief and death and all of those different things. And so therefore I do accept that I'm not going to be here forever. But I want to make the most of what I have, you know. And I was on your podcast. We had a blast. We talked forever, right? that was so much fun. A lot of fun. And so now let's get into your journey. And then from there, let's talk about how you got into doing the things that you were doing, that you are doing.
Yeah, thank you. The as I mentioned, I had a video production studio, and in 1999 we had a downturn in the economy here, and I ended up relocating to another country, that was New Zealand, with my partner at the time. Left my country, lost my home, lost that business, arrived in New Zealand owing 80,000, found a job in 6 weeks and repaid that money in 2 years. That's 40,000 a year. I think there's a book in that telling people how to do that. And at the end of that time, my partner found another woman and left with her. And his parting words to me were, no, I don't love you. And I never loved you. And in that moment, I thought, if that's true, then everything I've ever known is not true. And it was that I disintegrated. However, this is what I really want to impress on the viewers. My choices from that point on were all about my reintegration. And how did that come about? I think I just got very present to my life and just committed, whatever comes up now, I'm going to go to it. And so I faced everything that came into my vision And in doing so, I've encountered so much paradox and synchronicity. Challenge and support have been side by side, whereas in the past, it might be challenge and then a little bit of a lag and support would come in. However, now they were arriving almost simultaneously. And I think that's probably been one of the biggest gems that I've got out of this whole experience. We wonder sometimes why all these things happen to me. I've known I could have gone bankrupt, but I chose not to. I rang my bank manager every Friday and told him exactly what money I was going to be depositing to repay the bank loan. And he used to say to me from time to time, "We're not happy about all of this, of course," he said, "but I just love," he said, "I can set my watch by you. You ring at 4 p.m. every Friday and you don't fail." And I think being able to face where you're at and still take action, I think I had a lot of empathy for myself. And that's how I liken empathy towards others. It's being able to demonstrate the care and respect, but still be able to do your work, still be able to function and fulfill on promises or commitments. I had previously had cancer. I had lost my first child, a daughter. She was stillborn, a good pregnancy, and lots of complications at the birth. And in sharing this story, that the lasting memory and emotions that I have around this are lots of complications. She wasn't born alive, and my doctor said to me, he was sitting beside me holding her, and he said, "Would you like to nurse her?" And I said no. What I said no because I didn't think I could stand that pain. So he asked me numerous times over the next 10, 15 minutes, whether I was sure about not nursing her before they took her away. And I continued to say no. And in 2000, when everything turned upside down, I actually buried her, I should say, as baby Armitstead, because that's what everyone did back then. And I didn't feel too bad at the time. However, progress on to the year 2000, and I had been through all these losses of my own, and I went to a grieving seminar. And in that grieving seminar, the person presenting was coming along the front row, talking. Most of the people in the audience were parents who had lost children, and he was talking to each one, asking them, "What was your child's name?" And I thought, oh my God, I hope he doesn't ask me. I never gave her a name. And a friend who was with me at the time, she said, "Don't worry, Pat, we can have a naming ceremony and we can give her a name now." And so we did, and I called her Willow. And there's a song written by Paul McCartney called "Bend Little Willow," a lovely, gentle little song about the passing of someone called Willow. And some of the gifts in amongst this are just being present to the grief, and how it's enabled me to be present to it in others. At that grieving seminar, I sat next to a man whose energy I can still feel to this day. He was sitting there with his wife, and all through, it was a 2-hour seminar, and all the way through, he was holding himself, rocking backwards and forwards. I could see his jaw clench and unclench. Periodically, tears would come to his eyes. And immediately, the doctor had stopped presenting and he went outside, and I followed him. And, I spoke to him and said, "You've obviously been through something pretty devastating. And he shared that he'd lost his son. He was 14. He'd had an accidental fall from a third level of a cinema and died as a result of that fall. And he said, my wife, as you've seen, she sat there through that whole ceremony just with her hands on her knees, no emotion. And she's been like that for a year, just locked away. She's just not with us at this point.
Right.
And he said, oh, bloke, I don't know how to handle this. I've got 2 other children at home, and yet here I am. And I felt his pain more than I had felt anyone else's pain ever before. And I really get now the certainty, if you like, in the way in which Spirit, God, had me come and sit beside him, and in my commitment to be present, to feel his pain, and to have the courage then to, as a stranger, go and ask, are you okay? Would you like to talk? And the beauty is in the shared intimacy.
Yes.
That's the kindness that comes in sharing the most painful and vulnerable moments. I have a little story I'd like to read.
Yes, please.
This is from a man who lost his child, his son, and I don't have the beginning piece. But it begins. So I sat down amongst all the tubes and wires attached to my tiny son as the nurse placed his fragile being in my arms. The switch was turned off and the earth stood still. Suddenly a flood of such unimaginable sorrow and love as I have never felt before or since poured through my hardened heart. I thought it would break me in two, and it did. I left that hospital a shattered man that night, and it was the best thing that had ever happened to me. My broken heart was so wide open and fragile that I began to realise a compassion for others that I had never ever felt before. All the suffering of everyone found a channel through my open heart. I want to say that again. All the suffering of everyone found a channel through my open heart. I had never experienced such love for humanity and for the fragility and humility of my human condition, our human condition. I found my life when I allowed tragedy to break my heart rather than thicken it. That was sent to me by an ex-policeman who went on to become a palliative care nurse after his wife had died of cancer. And he befriended me and we talked online for exactly 90 days. Not 89, not 91. And I know it to be so because I kept a journal. And he disappeared on the last page of that journal, which was day 90.
You know, I got a question, Pat.
Yeah.
Because that really touched me. Thank you for sharing that and everything. That really hit very deep for me, and maybe for a lot of people tuning in right now. For everyone who's tuning in, thank you guys for tuning in. If this is your first time, head over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And today, welcoming my guest, Pat Armitstead. She is amazing. And we're into her story today. And of course, you guys already know we are going deep into a lot of these things. She just shared a little bit about losing her daughter due to stillbirth, and she just shared a poem from another gentleman who lost a child. This is a very, very deep subject. So I want to say to the listeners out there, trigger warnings. Okay, the things that we're going to be talking about may trigger you, but that's okay. We have support for you as well, right? Um, put your questions and comments, or put your questions that's pertaining to the conversation that we're having in the comment section. We'll be sure to get there. Ask Pat anything that you guys have on your mind, and we're going to address them. Okay, Pat, I've been on your show. I've talked about the loss of my son. I've talked about the loss of my parents, the loss of my brother, many other losses. You and I, we've had an amazing conversation. Do you think that it gets, and the reason why let me just put it into context. So before I got on with you, I just left a funeral. Another guy I lost. Three guys in 3 weeks. I've had to do some things, push some things aside because I've been trying to support the family and etc. And out of respect, I don't want to put their names or anything like out there, but I want to say to those families out there that are going through it, my heart is always with you. I'm always going to walk with you no matter what. And I know these people. I know these men. Do you think that it gets easier? Because as grief workers, we try to maintain a sense of professionality. We understand that we can't be attached to people because people come and go. Is it a challenge to distance yourself from that relationship with those individuals? But also, is it a challenge not to take it personally when we do come across situations where we may lose a client or two, maybe three?
I think a lot of my learning came in my early years, 20 years as a registered nurse. And I remember by about the second year in my training, we had become very adept at learning about empathy.
Mm.
And for me, empathy means to be present to what's going on for somebody else, but still being able to hold enough space to be able to do my work. And I saw in my nursing years some pretty horrific incidents. And when I look back, I marvel how on earth did, I sustain the parents when, something had happened to their child or anything actually. And now I really find I trust myself a lot and just life experience. And I work very intuitively, and I think I'm sensitive enough to know when I can say something and when I can't. And so, that's a measure of who I'm being and how I'm showing up, but also my sensitivity and perception for what's going on with the other person and where they're at this moment. And knowing the fluidity of that. In any one session that we might have with a client, there can be, umpteen range of emotions and cycling in and out. It's a roller coaster. And I think what I endeavour to bring is so that I had one client saying to me the next day after we'd had a session the previous night, she rang me late at night and said, "Can I come over?" And so she stayed a couple of hours, and the next day she rang me back and she said, "Do you know that the biggest gift I got from coming over last night was you just sat there quietly and were a vessel to receive all my heartache. Um, and while I had great compassion and empathy for where she was at, um, and I still have that. I still have that association. I still know the lady, but I don't carry it as a burden. Um,
That's what I was asking.
yeah.
That's what I was asking because I've gotten really good at disattaching my emotions um, in situations where I'm helping those men in grief because I realize that my they have no place in there. My story has no place in there. That's what I call um, what I like to say being a good visitor in other people's spaces, right? Not going there to make it about me, not even comparing what I've gone through to what they're going through, but making it about them, to allow them the space to be open and vulnerable, to be able to speak and express themselves and things like that. And yes, brother, it is. Attachment is hard. Um, and that's the reason why we're talking about it because of the simple fact of we as a grief coach, we don't get the ability because we have so many people that come through that want what we carry, right? That we don't have we don't get the we don't get to be attached to certain people because our job is to help you move to come to a place of peace and acceptance and acknowledgement of your new reality. And we try to do that to the best of our ability. Sometimes we may fall short, but that's okay because, as long as we're here, we still always have that ability to come back and also help other individuals to come there. Some people aren't ready, some people who are. And so that was the question I posed to Pat. Because like I said before, and let me just reiterate, I just literally, before I got online, left a funeral burying another guy who lost his battle with addiction. Um, but I've known this guy for probably 16, 17 years. And I've walked with him. I've been there in the mud with him. And so I kind of took it personal when he passed away, but also prayed for him to have peace as well. Because I understood more in depth of his battle with his demons, as we all have our demons. And I got down on myself a little bit. And that's why I talked to the amazing Pat today, because I wanted to find out, is this normal? Right. And things like that. And, um, because it's kind of hard to not take it personal. Like, am I doing enough? And and Pat just said, when she was speaking about her child being born stillborn, child loss is something different. I often think about what these men that we buried the last couple of these, well, myself, the last few weeks. There's parents out there that are experiencing, maybe for the first time ever, child loss. And so we put ourselves in these situations to kind of understand, to have empathy, to walk, support, to provide resources for these individuals to navigate that world. And child loss is such a deep embedded. There's no words for it. There's words for everything else, but there's no words for child loss. Now, do my question for Pat will be, after I put that up there. Um, do you think that there's a difference from when we talk about child loss, whether if a child is stillborn, whether if a child is 36 years old, 14, 8, whatever? Because to me, there's no difference. A child is a child. And as a parent, we have a bond with our children And we often live in a world where we believe that our children are supposed to outlive us. And there's a disconnect when that does not happen. But I could be wrong. And I want to
The
get your thoughts on that, Miss Pat.
yeah, the as a society, we have become grief illiterate and death phobic. And Stephen, for people who'd like to explore that a little bit more, Stephen Jenkinson, whom you're probably aware of,
Yes.
has a dearth of information around that to help us understand. So many people can't be with someone who's grieving. They have no idea what to say, they don't know how to behave, and so they stay away.
That's good.
And to be present with another in their loss takes something. And
Very true.
you're talking about your friend whose funeral you just went to. One of the things that I'm really getting now, I'm calling myself an elder now, is that we can be, if we're not careful, we can be trapped by our demons, but we can also be enlivened by our daemons, Daemons, which is our genius. And I always wanted to be an artist, but my mother said, get a proper job. So I went nursing.
Yes.
And so I never explored creativity much, 24 years of nursing. Then I got into advertising, full self-expression for so many creative outlets. And then turn of the century, a multitude of losses. And I really have seen the purpose of my life. You know, I can now meld my compassion and my creativity to serve humanity. And that was an incredible realization. And you can probably see a couple of pieces of art, too long to explain what they are. But my art, that I do a lot of art, and my art is called Art Informed by Expressions with Humanity, or Experiences with Humanity. So things that come into my life give me not just a heartfelt sense, but I can get a visual, and my creative mind works really well. So when we can begin to harness what on earth has all of this been about, and question what's going on, search for answers. Stephen Jenkinson is a man I love. I also like, I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Russ Harris.
Yes, I actually have that book in my office.
Wonderful. So I love him, and you know what, people across the board, early in the book he says, you know, there's this reality gap. There's the gap between the reality that we want or think we aspire to and the reality that we have. And the bigger the gap between those two, then it's the bigger the slap. So, you know, that, for example, we've got smaller losses, like, or feelings that arise from envy, jealousy, dread, guilt, resentment, perhaps even hatred, despair or disgust. And then those slaps are usually over fairly quickly. Envy is just a passing thing, usually. But others can take days, years, decades. And, you know, there's no set time through which we should be passing all of those things. But when we're equipped and begin to understand more about what it is in our humanity that lets us move through this, I'm writing my third book at the moment. It's called Joyful Empowerment. The Only Way Out is Through. And I just share,
I like that.
especially in the last 24 years, story after story um, that demonstrates how that can happen in your life. And when we go to face that thing which we fear the most, right, and we get right to it, it actually goes, right? It does go. Now, it's not to say that we forget things, of course we don't. Um, but there's a level of acceptance, and probably acceptance is not even a good word. We assimilate it, we integrate it all into our experience, and then who we are when we show up after that is a very different person, very different person. And many people take on causes, as you yourself have, right? You've
Well,
picked
I
up.
think we all do, right?
Mm.
And I'm nothing special. We're people who have capitalized um, on the knowledge that we have obtained through the worst pain that we've ever endured for the benefit of other people. And when we look at the things that we do, I love the fact that and I'm gonna reiterate about what you said because I find that fascinating. Our minds become creative of how we can better support those who are going through similar things, right? Um, and so we do come from a place of deep embedded empathy. I have seen many things and have experienced very deep loss, um, loss that I wouldn't want to wish on anyone. That is any loss, right? Parents, when you lose your parents, you feel a sense of abandonment, and there's a reality that you look into the world and go, "I'm an orphan." When you lose a sibling, you lose a really close part of you, of someone that has been a part of your life for however long it may be, whether they're older or younger. You have a relationship with that individual. Children, we as parents are prepared to live the rest of our life to take and nurture and protect this child, and when that's taken away, we feel that our world has been um, turned upside down, that someone lied to us. In all actuality, the world never lied to us. These are things that I've come to, and I love the fact that you said come to a place of acceptance, because some people never can do that. um, I want to quote David Kessler, where he said, "You come to a place of acknowledgement." And acknowledgement made a lot more sense to me, because you acknowledge that the world that you live in has changed. The person that you were during these multiple things have changed. You acknowledge these things, and you begin to build a new identity to fit into the world that you are now in. Now, whether or not if you do good things with it or bad things with it, that is totally up to the person. But I will tell people this: there's no right or wrong way to do it. You have to do it the best way that you know how, till you learn different things. And my message goes out there to those individuals that are struggling with addiction, mental health, and all of these different things. What you're feeling is totally normal, regardless if a person agrees with you about how you're dealing with it. It's totally subjective. Oftentimes, I say people have to hit their version of rock bottom before they ask for help. I would say before you hit your version of rock bottom, ask for help, because people are able to walk with you, and you bring a sense of awareness of what you're going through with individuals. and with yourself, so people can actually um, begin to speak life into you. Now because I go back to the creative side of Miss Pat, because you've done some amazing things. You've been in the TV world, the media world for quite some time doing what you do. Let's talk a little bit about that journey.
Yes, when I left nursing, I was pretty much burnt out. I went on a 5 year working holiday around Australia, doing all manner of amazing things and homeschooling my son. And he reached high school age, and I thought, oh, we better get back over there to the real world. And so we came back to live in the town and do the usual thing. And I knew I didn't want to return to nursing, didn't know what I wanted to do. Um, Ended up creating my own small video production company. It very quickly developed into a full-time role for myself and my partner. And in 2.5 years had built that to full broadcast standard. Was filming for all the television networks for regional news stories, and did some, lots of little short courses along the way. And what I love, I won 11 advertising awards. And what I loved about that business was this was the creative expression. It was the arts degree I never did. There were just so many, some days were pretty ordinary, you just make 100 tape copies. Nothing very creative about that. But even what I could bring to all of my marketing, we had semi-professional cameras in the beginning, and then when we got our first professional camera, I put an ad in the local paper in the funeral notices advising, or no, in the birth, deaths and marriages notice, but this was advising a birth. So I was advising the birth of our new camera, and I gave it a name, and inviting people to come and wet the baby's head. So that ad, placed totally out of context in the birth notices, attracted 200 or 300 people to come and celebrate that moment with us in our shop. And I really started to tap into that instinctual creative self that had been suppressed all those years nursing. We don't want a nurse being too creative.
Right.
Someone could get hurt. um, and I absolutely loved that business. It was just so fulfilling. Um, I entered the New South Wales Tourism Award, first time ever for a video production company, and we won. And I set myself a goal 12 months in advance, and the first thing I did was write the speech that I would give on awards night. And I ended up giving that speech. So, to create intentions and live into your intentions. And that year, I worked to a backward plan. I had this big calendar, and everything was
Hold that.
planned.
Do me a favor. Hold that thought for a minute. I do believe that there was just a huge accident outside of my home. But give me 1 second. Just 1 second. Hold on. Well, give me a couple of seconds. Because I just heard this huge crash out here. I heard this car screeching down the street, and all of a sudden there's this huge crash, and everything went silent. I'm pretty sure there was an accident. Give me 1 second. This is my daily life. Hold on. Uh, uh, yeah, sorry about that. There was a huge accident that just happened right outside of my door. Hmm. Wow. This normally doesn't happen. I'm over here doing this and we're live, and all of a sudden this happens, and I hear it, and I hear dogs barking. I can see the cars over here and things like that, and I just walked out of there, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I really hope that I really hope that they're okay. But there was like a truck, two cars, and I really don't know what to say at this moment. Um, wow.
Something that I've done over the years, probably done it for 50 years, is every time I see an ambulance or a fire brigade, I just say a little prayer for the drivers and for anyone that they're transporting, and then let it go. So, when we can be continually present, and then the episode has passed and we can let it go. So we sent a wish, a contribution. Um, you know, you and I can't change everything in the world, but we can change things in our immediate world. And what we're doing here today is, in the sharing of some of our experiences, those who are listening will get present to and take on certain things. Different people will focus on different aspects, and they pick it up perhaps as a lasting memory, and others will be magnetic figures and they'll pass.
Can you hear that? Yeah. Um, my heart just broke when I went out there, and I'm listening to what you're saying, and things like that, and my heart just goes, what can we do to be better? Why are we such in a rush? Um, I often question why things in life have to happen the way that it does, but I realize that we cannot control those things. I realize that, and this again, I'm speaking from a place, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Miss Pat. Um, I realize that some people, oftentimes, when life happens, we never understand why it happens the way that it does. We want to say that sometimes people go too soon, um, that people then deserve these things. I often chalk it up to, this is just the way it's supposed to be. We can't write people's stories for them. We can't. We all have an expiration date. No matter how we expire out of this world, it was our time to go at that time. And I know it's hard for a lot of people to understand that, especially those who have dealt with um, losing a child, maybe losing a younger sibling or older sibling for that matter. It's really hard to wrap our mind around it, so to speak, right? I want to get your thoughts on that as well, because when we think about the creativity that comes along with helping others understand, how does that transpire in, like, from your thoughts, from your experience, because you've done some amazing things in this community, in this world, through creativity and from the losses that you have endured yourself. How does one navigate that?
I think I got a heightened experience of how to do that on my tour. I toured with Patch Adams for 16 days through
Mm,
Europe.
okay.
It's real Patch Adams, not Robin Williams. And on the fourth day, we went to a deaf, dumb, and blind orphanage. And I walked into the room, and a little girl in a blue velvet dress put her hand out to me and took me into a room, pulled me down onto the floor, started playing with these earrings, these very earrings. And at that point, I had no idea what her problems might be or anything that was going on, but I was filled with joyous wonder because I just had this heightened sense something amazing is coming. So I'm sitting in anticipation, and suddenly she started to hum. And I knew by the tonal quality of her voice, she was deaf. And I thought, oh, she's deaf, right. So she's humming, still holding my earrings, and then she stopped. And I thought, okay, my turn. So I hummed. She hummed and I hummed for an hour till they called me to get back on to the bus. And in that hour, I had no stray thought. I didn't wonder what kind of vodka I'll try tonight. We were in Russia. There was just her and I in this unique experience of oneness. And I've never experienced such joy and wonder before or since. To be totally present for an hour is just profound. Most of us are present for a minute. Now, we could look around. Now, what was this about? She was listening to my vibration through my ears. She was picking up my humming through my ears, or anything I might say through my ears. I learned later she was deaf, dumb, and blind. So she was totally sensing me with her fingers. And yet we had this profound connection. Now, we could have stood back and looked at that orphanage. There are 1.5 million orphans in Russia, all living in very impoverished conditions. No light bulbs, no hand towel, no toilet paper, no soap, very, very crude food, old clothes. So we could see that, and we did all see that. But we also saw the wonder and the beauty of what could happen. There was no plan for any of the visits. Every day we visited 3 or 4 orphanages, and there was no plan. There were no instructions. There were no rules. So you just allowed something to happen.
Okay.
Patch said to me, when you go home, set yourself an intention so big you could never hope to achieve it, and then set out to enjoy the journey. Now, that doesn't mean life won't happen along. There were many incidences over that 16 days. There were 30 of us, we would all get back on the bus and we'd all be in tears for what we'd seen, for the poverty, the conditions, children who were sick, so many difficult things. So there were these two opposing forces, and I returned from that journey. This is what I really want to impress on people. I returned from that trip feeling more vital and alive than I'd ever felt in my whole life. And that was because I'd allowed myself to experience it all.
I like that. And I think that's when we try to help other individuals experience grief in a totally different eye and perspective. Like grief doesn't have to be this sad thing. It is a journey. It's definitely a process that you must endure. As long as you live and breathe on this earth, you will, at some point in your life, whether if it's a job, a car, a dog, a friend, family member. Grief is such a shared human experience, and it's such a vast array of things that you can experience. Um, that we try to educate individuals that it doesn't have to be this this path of destruction that we often choose. I know this. I speak from experience when I say this, so I don't never criticize anyone else. And I know there's some people out there listening right now. Maybe they're not um, putting their comments in there, but I do appreciate you guys listening. I'm going to call out someone right now to say that thank you for the forgiveness. You did not have to do that, and I do appreciate you. And that person, hopefully, that they're listening right now, which I know that they are. There And so, hopefully, what you're getting from the podcast helps you along the journey. Healing is a process, understanding is a process. Take the time to embrace it, acknowledge it, hug it like a teddy bear, right? Grief doesn't have to be a sad thing, it doesn't. And I look at Miss Pat today and I go, man, I am inspired. Since I talked to you the first time I was on your podcast, I started thinking to myself, like, I don't do enough. I listened to what you was doing, and I was like, oh my God, I have to up my game. And since that time, I'm in the process of writing another book. Got the conference going on, and I even started a magazine. I said, you know what? When I come back and talk to Miss Pat, I'm going to sit up there and go, this is what you inspired me to do, young lady. Yeah. While you over there doing media stuff and carrying on, I got the chance to meet a few people. And when you talked about Patch Adams, Robin Williams, may he rest in peace. I can often, because that right there makes me smile, because I'm talking to someone who was in a presence and had the chance to experience life with this individual. And I know you have stories. I know you have some stories with Mr. Williams. and so now I it inspires me even more to go out there and meet more people like that, but also to pay attention.
Yeah.
Because I think Robin Williams said it best when he said those who are struggling with depression are often the ones who try to make others smile the most. And hopefully I didn't slaughter that too much. Hopefully I did justice on that. But also think about it as well, because we, and often those like ourselves who are in the grief field, who are practitioners, coaches, counselors, therapists, we spend a lot of time comforting others that we sometimes forget to comfort ourselves. And I started thinking of, I started doing some research and things like that. And I started looking at the statistics of psychiatrists that get into this field. And then and today I talked with Miss Pat, and I'm going, what is the secret? This is my question to you. What is the secret to longevity in this field?
You want me to answer that?
Yes, please.
I think identifying and then living into your purpose. I know what I'm here for. All of these experiences have had me plummet 2 or 3 times to great depths, and yet I've risen and gone again. And what I teach now is the healing power of humour and creativity. And I have a poem I want to share with you.
Yes, please.
I wrote this poem, and I sent it. Earlier in the program, I talked about that policeman who'd become a palliative care nurse. So we had a 3-month exchange, and at the end, when he went and disappeared, I thought I need to acknowledge and be glad he came, not sad he's gone. And so I wrote this poem. It's called My King of Hearts. Do you know sometimes you find life deals you a rotten hand? Then you come across a situation where 2 of a kind keep popping up. And you know then that you truly want to pick the cards you want to play. You shuffle the deck looking for a fair play. Maybe hoping against hope you'll land a joker who will help you get a winning hand. But when your cards are on the table, you may or may not discover a full house. To some, it is test of skill and a certain card sharp prowess. To others, they just know hearts are trumps. Kings and queens are meant to go together. The first royal flush is replaced by a daring to play the wild card. Sometimes you feel you want to raise the stakes, but always you come to being straight, putting your cards on the table and playing your true hand in celebration of a bright royal couple who are calling a spade. My king, I am yours in fair dealings. And there endeth the sonnet.
I love that. You know what? I offer those things, that segment in the magazine, right? And I would you have to send that to me so I can put it in the magazine, because I
sent that to him with a pack of cards.
Yes.
So he would get what it was about. And so, that while we didn't speak again, there's, we can contribute in a meaningful way, even to separation.
Mm-hmm.
And, we need to, all of us have creative spirit. We just haven't tapped into it. And, that's something I'm fostering in people at the moment to, you don't have to be an artist or an author, but tap into that wellspring that is you, that thing that springs forth with an idea, and action it.
Yes.
And,
yes.
when I do a keynote, I give every person who organizer of the conference a bucket and a spade. I call them up on stage as the beginning of my keynote, call them up. Thank you so much for working with me in the lead up to this conference. I'd like to gift you with this wee gift, and it's a little bucket and spade. And I say, I want to thank you for inviting me to come and play in your sandpit. So we've got connection. She smiles, the audience giggles, and I've opened up the place for me to step into now in a new fashion. So I've given away over 1,000 bucket and spades every time. So we can be creating little signatures out of this creative essence. And we have to have courage to do that, because a lot of people can't accept compliments, so they don't know what to do with it. Well, that's their problem.
No, I love that. I definitely love that. I'm checking everything from because we got so many people tuning in on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook that I want to make sure that I'm not missing any of the comments. But I love the fact that they're sitting back and they're listening and just tuning in and enjoying the conversation. But please, if you guys have any comments or questions for Miss Pat, please put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to get to them as we continue with our conversation. Miss Pat is an amazing person, and of course, she has been around for quite some time. I mean, she spent time with Robin Williams, things like that. And that's inspiring for me. And for most of you out there, Mork and Mindy, yeah, we all started off with those TV shows and things like that, and have grown to watch Mrs. Doubtfire, right? If you come from the generation I come from, and so much more, so much more. Um, and so now my question to Miss Pat, as we continue on, how does one um, navigate the multiple losses and the relationships with that? How does one navigate that? Because every loss is different. Every relationship has a significant impact on our lives. And and I ask this because I come from a place of having to navigate those multiple losses. And like I said, friendships, watching the different ways that my friends have passed away, um, losing my parents, one to a stroke, one to congestive heart failure, losing a younger brother to a major asthma attack, to losing my son to um, unknown causes. Now, I say that to say this because I'm nothing special out there, because I know there's people out there that have experienced those similar things. I know how I navigated them. Um, and some of them almost didn't fare too well. But I do come from a place where I look to other people to help educate people on how to um, navigate those losses in a more healthier way. Because maybe my way is not the best way. It's what worked for me, right? But I don't want people to struggle the way that I have. So I go to Miss Pat, someone who has years and years of experience in helping these individuals, in your knowledge.
Something I've been using for 24 years now is a verse from the Dalai Lama, and I think it answers your question perfectly. Um, he says, I forget which book this comes from, but he says, "This is the time of teaching. What you teach at this time through your every word and action right now will remain as indelible lessons in the hearts and minds of those whose lives you touch, both now and for years to come. Ask God on this day to show us how to show up in the world that will cause the world itself to change." And here's the significant piece. What you wish to experience, provide for another. Look to see now what it is you wish to experience in your own life and in the world. Then see if there is another for whom you may be the source of that. If you wish to experience peace, provide peace for another. If you wish to know you are safe, cause another to know that they are safe.
Mm.
If you wish to better understand seemingly incomprehensible things, help another to better understand. If you wish to heal your own sadness or anger, seek to heal the sadness or anger of another. Those others are waiting for you now. They are looking for your guidance, for hope, for courage, for strength, for understanding, and for assurance at this hour. Most of all, they are looking to you for love. And he closes, "My religion is very simple. My religion is kindness." So I think, you can best be kind to yourself by being kind to another. And I'm not saying that's going to happen right in the middle of the beginning of an event, but as things unfold, your healing comes when you can be in a place of contribution to another. We had horrific bushfires here back in 2020. I don't know if you heard about those. All the east coast of Australia was on fire.
I did.
Worst fires we've ever had. And I saw in the newspaper one day a photo of a man, a dairy farmer, sitting in a broken chair outside his burnt property. And his picture broke my heart. So I went looking through the dairy register and I found his name. His name was Farron Turlich. And luckily enough, I had his phone number there and I rang him. And I said, Farron, you won't know me. My name's Pat Armitstead. I have seen the story of your loss in these fires, and I would just like to be a support to you and phone you each day until you no longer need me to. I rang Farron Turlich every day for 2 years. 5 or 10 minute conversation. It wasn't about coaching. It was about checking in, and it was about having his back when our government did not. All those farmers, just for example, were promised sums of money to kick off getting started again, and it never came. So in the face of repeated applying for funding, which had been promised but never came, I wanted to be the one that would have his back. Now, why did I do that? Because I so would have appreciated through all of my losses, especially that cumulative lot, if someone had had my back. But my family had disappeared, ex had left, and there was this period of isolation and being alone. Yeah. And my doctor wanted to medicate me, and I said no, I don't want to be medicated. I have every reason to be feeling all that I'm feeling. Help me deal with my grief. She wasn't the answer to that, so I found another doctor, an integrative practitioner, and all he wanted to know was my story. He gave me an hour of his time, and he got his guitar out at the end and he sang me a song. And that was the beginning. So, when we can be sure and take action, even though it was hurting still, I was still a mess, and yet those couple of things happened. And the beauty of Dr. Robin Kelly, my doctor, who's a friend and colleague ever since, what a gift he's been to me.
That is truly amazing, because I think we all have people that have inspired us, walked with us, allowed us to share our stories, to allow us to become the better versions of ourselves, to help others. Right? But most of it that we do is because we want to serve other people, to make sure that they have someone that cares about them. I know for me, that was the main reason, as I began to find my way in servitude to other people, to inner communities and things like that. There was a huge sacrifice that I've made with my own insanity and sanity, understanding reality, understanding the way that my mind worked as well, but understanding that, and here's a profound truth, that I didn't know anything. And I had to become a student in order to understand how to have conversations with people, how to show up in people's spaces, how to allow my gift, because once I realized that it had nothing to do with me, I realized that my gift had more to do with what I was doing than I did, right? So I was like, I have to surrender to this thing, and I have to be willing to give it out to whomever needs it, but also to understand that my path was going to be one that wasn't meant for most people. That was going to be a lonely one. Um, that my time was going to be consumed with serving others because that's what I was called to do. And there's no fault to anyone else's. It's just the way that we are built for the most part. Now, there are blessings that come along with that. There are blessings of creativity, of exploring the world and sharing our stories to help other people navigate their losses, um, but also to provide services, resources, conversations, inspiration, and to also be an example to others that you can. It is possible. Healing is hard. It is painful, and we are an example of if you're willing to have the courage to walk through it, that you too can um, pave your way in your healing. You may not do the same things that Miss Pat has done, or many other people who have come after. You may not have done those things, but you can do some amazing things, though, right? Just explore your creativity. And I love that you said that. Now, with that being said, I know it's getting late where you are. So, and I always want to be respectful of your time. And you look beautiful, by the way. I love those pearls. I love those pearls. I love that hair. I love that smile. I already do, and
That,
things like
that
that. We can,
doctor, that integrative doctor that I was telling you about,
uh-huh.
when when I stopped dyeing my hair, and I had kept dyeing it because I thought, oh, if I let the grey come through, I'll look old. And so anyway, so I let the grey come through, and I'm like, I love it. And the next time I saw him, he said to me, "Oh," he said, "you've finally got your halo."
I love it. I love it because that's exactly what it's like. It's glowing, right? Mine is around my face. I don't know if you can see this or not, but I got mine. I have my silver that's coming through right now. But like I skipped the gray. It went straight to silver. And I'm just like, well, maybe my halo is going to be around my neck. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be around my face, but I'm going to go with it. I'm rocking it. It's just what it is. It's beautiful. And most people are like, we love that old silver fox look. I was like, I'm not silver just yet. Don't be judging me, and things like that. you know. Um, but it's definitely a journey, Miss Pat. It's definitely a journey, and we have so much more that we're going to be doing. And I'm so glad that you was able to make time for me in your world today to be able to have you on to have this conversation with you.
We
Such
have
a we could talk forever. You already know this. Now, before I let you go, tell people where they can find you.
my new website, which is still being developed, but it's pat www.patarmitstead.com.
And
Um,
tell people where
and
they can find your podcast as well.
that's just under Pat Armitstead again. Had to have a think, Pat Armitstead YouTube. It's just on YouTube at the moment.
Okay.
And I did another series, which is on my old website, which is still live, which was about humour, but the significance of humour across life.
I love that. I love that. Now, before I let you go, first, before I let you go, I want to say for everyone who has been tuning in on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, thank you guys for tuning in and just enjoying the conversation with us. And again, if you guys have not already, go check out Miss Pat. I got her information in the description below. So you guys can follow her on all the Instagram, ask her questions, but reach out to us. She's doing some amazing things for you guys who's looking to find a good podcast, or maybe she may be looking for guests. Reach out to her, please. And for everyone, if you have not already, I see you guys out there. If you have not already, do me a favor, head over to their YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. But also, we have some amazing things, and you guys are going to see a lot more of Pat coming through, because we have just an update and an announcement before I let Ms. Pat take you guys out of here. We have the magazine now, the Grief Talk magazine. You guys go to the website, get your digital download. It is $7 for the digital download, but it's so worth it. You guys won't be disappointed, and we have many more coming. Please share that around. It's www. If you guys look down below, it's scrolling right there, right? You know what I'm saying? Go www.mensgriefsupport.org. Go there, go to the membership, get your $7 subscription, even go to a 6 month or a year subscription. We offer discounts on all of those. If you guys want the hard copy, give me a little bit for that, because I am in the process of getting that done. Okay. And we will also offer that in month to month, 6 month or a year subscription as well. So you guys keep your eye on that. We got a lot of things coming. We got the conference coming up in 2025, the Global Grief Conference. If you guys are a grief practitioner, mental health practitioner, or trauma informed coach, if you're a podcaster that is in that same exact field, head over to the Facebook, find the GGN, the Global Grief Network, ask to become a member, go in there, introduce yourself, find some amazing people that you can collaborate and do some amazing things with. This is a network of grief workers that are out here doing amazing things. We're heart-centered, and we're dedicated to serving our communities. All right. And we're going to keep doing this. It's growing pretty fast, man. We got almost 200 members in there right now. And we're still bringing in more people. If you're not on Facebook and you're on LinkedIn, go to LinkedIn. We got a page over there too as well. Now, with that being said, I want to let Miss Pat take you out here with some words. So my question to Miss Pat, if you can leave the audience with something today, what would you leave them with?
I would leave them with this. If you get nothing else from this presentation today, let it be this. You are here to bring joy, not just into your own life, but into the lives of others. And the ways and means by which you do that doesn't have to be hard. Thank you so much, Tony. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to doing other things as well.
Of course. And the pleasure is all mine. I'm just glad that we was able to make it happen, because I know you've had some big moves going on in your life and things like that. So I'm just glad that you was able to fit me into your schedule. And look forward to doing, like you said before, doing some major things out there. And for you guys who have been tuning in, again, my heartfelt thank you for the support and everything that you guys have given us, and to help keep growing the channel. We're trying to get out there to more people, so help us to do that, please. I don't ask for anything. I'm not asking for your subscription. If it's not for you, it's not for you. I understand. But maybe you know someone who can benefit from the conversations that we have. Share it with them. They don't have to subscribe, but share it with them so they know that there's resources out there for them as well. And again, this is our effort in normalizing conversations around death, dying, and grief, to let you know that you're not out here by yourself. But also, as a reminder, make sure that you're going to the people that you do love and let them know how much you care about them, because tomorrow's not promised for anyone. And with that being said, you guys, I love you all. This is going to conclude this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. We're going to see you guys in the next one. And you guys have an excellent night. And if you're in Australia, have an excellent day. All right. Peace.